Hello again. You've seen me talk briefly about DC's reboot last year in episodes past, but I haven't exactly gone into full detail about how I feel about it. Last time I talked about comics, I mentioned how comic book continuity can be intimidating for those who want to start reading comics, but have no idea where to start. With this in mind, DC Comics completely restarted all of their books from the beginning. In theory, that is. Now, I might be entirely off point as far as what it means to reboot something, but I was under the impression that rebooting something meant doing it entirely from scratch, as if the previous treatment of that property never even existed.
So are we just gonna pretend like those guys never happened? Is that what we're doing?
Yep.
Best example I can think of is Christopher Nolan's Batman treatment, which completely ignores everything that was done in the Tim Burton and Joel Schumacher Batman movies. As such, I was really curious as to what DC was going to do with their first book to get the relaunch treatment, Justice League #1. It was okay, but it still depended on at least some kind of basic knowledge about these characters for anything to make any sense. Who's this guy in the green suit? Why is he so surprised by the presence of a guy who's dressed like a bat? Why is this taking place 5 years ago when there's no actual present to be found in this story? Seriously, out of all of the #1s that I read out of this alleged reboot, the only comics that actually read like original stories were Action Comics and Earth 2. And even that's kind of a stretch, since you had to read Justice League in order to understand what Earth 2 was all about. Anyone else confused? I'm lucky enough to actually know who these characters are, but I'm putting myself into the shoes of someone who's never picked up a comic book in their life, and I'm totally lost here. It especially doesn't make any sense when there are 4 different titles about Batman, none of which are in continuity with even each other. How is Batman fighting the Court of Owls while simultaneously prowling the halls of Arkham Asylum, chasing the Joker, and fighting some new villain while trying to teach his son not to kill his opponents? Wait, when did Batman get a son? Yeah, let's not even try to untangle the web of questions that arise with Batman's extended family. My point is, for an attempt to reboot all of these comics as continuity, it's not doing a very good job of it. However, the books themselves are still selling like crazy, and are getting all kinds of praise for being the perfect jumping-on points for new readers. I'd like to know what books these people were reading, but whatever. Anyway, DC recently released a relaunch of Legends of the Dark Knight, which was intended to not be in continuity with any of the other Batman books. I thought this would be a repeat of the Legend books from the 90s, where stories were limited to 1 or 2 issues. But actually, this comic gives us 3 stories to enjoy. Our first story opens with Batman running on a rooftop on a dark and stormy night, monologuing about how the sound of rain used to bring him peace. But that was before I understood there is no such thing as peace. There is only war. I don't know. Things seem pretty peaceful to me. He exposits that it's been 6 months since first donning his cape and cowl, and the criminal community seems to be in hiding. I hunt from above. This is what keeps me at the top of the food chain. Intelligence, unpredictability, devotion to my cause. And, billions of dollars to fritter away. His narration is interrupted by him spotting a mugging in progress, and he swoops in to deal with it. I want you to repeat something to yourself. No families. No kids. That ain't no kid, you idiot. And the kid, who's actually a very small man, beats Batman with a baseball bat. And surprisingly, no puns about him being called Batman. Go figure. They start beating the crap out of him, and instead of, fighting back, he starts thinking about who could possibly have staged this trap for him. One of them found out who I am. Used it against me. Which one was sick enough to use my parents' murder too? Well, if any previous comics can be believed, apparently the only villain in Gotham who knows your secret identity is the Mad Hatter. And come on, they set up a trap that looks like some family is being mugged, and the first theory that pops into your mind is that they know your backstory and wanted to exploit it? For all you know, they just wanted to make a trap that didn't involve the cliche of the damsel in distress about to get raped. Or maybe they didn't have the resources to pull off a bank robbery. We then cut to, Wayne Manor, I guess, where an inebriated Bruce Wayne is musing with Alfred about the Justice League and their powers. Oh my god, I have to reference Batman Through the Looking Glass again, and barely a minute has passed. Bruce Wayne doesn't drink! Yeah, they've got powers, but powers come with weaknesses, like kryptonite, or the color yellow. Yeah, it sure is a good thing that a bullet to the face is no longer considered a weakness, isn't it? But yeah, Bruce rambles on about how since he has no powers, that means he has no weaknesses either. So that's why he covers himself in body armor and became a master strategist for any contingency, right? Because he has no weaknesses at all. Alfred, still having a brain cell or two, points out that Bruce does have weaknesses. I'll bet you $1 I don't. A gentleman never accepts a wager from a drunkard. I'm only pretending to be drunk. That's the act, remember? Who are you even acting for? We jump back to the alley where Batman's getting beaten up, since I guess that last scene was a flashback, not that the comic points that out, and the thugs are called off. By Alfred! So, yeah, Alfred apparently hired these guys to set up a trap to beat the tar out of Batman. Alfred takes $1 out of Batman's utility belt. I'm pretty sure the belt was designed so that only he could open it, but whatever. And he quips, "Everyone has a vulnerability, yes?" Yes. Clearly my vulnerability is hiring butlers who know how to beat me up. You are so fired. Seriously, how is Batman okay with this? Alfred just commissioned a bunch of thugs to beat up Batman? Are these thugs, or are they his former theater troupe? Whoever they turn out to be, aren't they a little curious as to how Alfred knows where Batman will be at this time of night? Or did Alfred tell them that Bruce Wayne will be there while he's simply dressed up as Batman for some reason? If that's what he told them, why aren't they afraid of the legal action they'd face after assaulting one of the richest and most powerful men in the world? How much did Alfred have to pay them to pull this stunt off anyway? I imagine he's paid better than most butlers out there, but still, the strings he had to pull for this stunt are just mind-boggling. Why couldn't he just wait for Batman to come home bruised and bleeding one night, only so you can patch him up and say, "I told you so"?
It just raises too many questions.
And what is this vulnerability that Batman concedes to? Apparently Batman's only vulnerability is getting hit with a stick. Our next story opens with Batman in space! He points out that the lenses in his cowl protect his eyes, and the rebreather from his belt, despite the lack of oxygen, buys him another minute. And since we don't see him freezing in this temperature of absolute zero, we can only infer from this that his costume is airtight. Which would mean that whenever he goes out to fight crime, he would collapse from heat exhaustion because his 100-pound Kevlar suit has no means of ventilation. Wait, what? He pulls out his JLA signal device to teleport back to the watchtower, but it slips out of his hand. We then cut to a minute earlier, where Batman continues his earlier thought of how much he hates space. I hate satellites too, but what I really hate? Teleporters. I also hate coffee mugs that say, "I heart Gotham." The computer indicates that someone has just teleported onto the watchtower, despite the lack of anyone apparently having done so. Batman calmly walks over to a window and writes something onto it, pondering why he didn't see anyone arrive. We then cut to Amazo, an android who has all the powers of the Justice League. And he's never appeared in any comics since the DC reboot. I know this book is supposed to operate outside the continuities of the other DC books, but I don't think that means you're allowed to use characters that haven't even been introduced yet. Before Batman can reach the computer to fend him off, Amazo gives Batman a bad bitch slap. So Batman is aware of someone being in the watchtower with him ever since the beginning, and he doesn't immediately man the computer, which apparently has protocols for dealing with intruders who aren't only invisible, but are also more or less invincible. And for that matter, if Amazo has all the powers of the Justice League, why was he hiding long enough to let Batman slowly walk away from the computer and dick around on the window? Why didn't he just run in at top speed and pound Batman's face into goop before Batman could even react? Batman locks himself in the airlock, which will apparently alert the rest of the Justice League if it's breached. So essentially, Batman's plan is, "Don't come in my room or I'll tell on you." Amazo shoots Batman into space, and goes off to do something. Batman then activates a program, somehow, that shoots one of Green Arrow's green arrows at him, and turns the heat up to reveal what he wrote on the window. Think again. Think that this plot makes any sense? Think again. Batman narrates that the functions of the satellites somehow mask his vital functions, making it hard for Amazo to track him. And Batman hates the satellite for some reason. He also says that the message he left was supposed to mystify and enrage Amazo. Exactly how is that supposed to mystify and enrage him? He's a robot! Amazo goes off to search for Batman, although why he's searching for Batman escapes me since he shot him into space not 10 seconds ago, and he wanders into a room that is occupied by statues of the Justice League members? Is the Justice League so vain that they have to go into this room every now and then just so they can admire themselves? Amazo then spots the real Batman in the teleporter. The trick to stopping a speedster? Talk. They always wait to hear what you're saying. Fans of the original Superman movies may recall that Superman can actually fly fast enough to reverse the flow of time. Whatever it is that you have to say, I'm pretty sure you're not going to be able to get a word in edgewise. But yeah, Batman flapping his jaws somehow stops Amazo dead in his tracks, as he tells him how he got back onto the satellite. Remember how he lost his signal device? You'll never guess how he gets it back. Did he fire his grapple gun at it? Did he throw his cape out to catch it? Did he have some kind of emergency rocket propulsion system in his suit? Nope. He uses...
the shark repellent bat spray!
I'm not kidding here. He actually uses bat shark repellent to propel him toward the signal device. Even if we ignore that this tiny little aerosol can doesn't have the thrust necessary to propel all 200 pounds of Batman, I really wish that DC would just once and for all make up its mind about whether or not we're supposed to acknowledge that the 1960s Batman ever existed. They're constantly trying to make sure he's as dark and gritty as possible. They ignore most of the events of the Silver Age, but then they throw things like this and Batman the Brave and the Bold at us. Make up your mind, DC! Anyway, while Batman's talking, he narrates to us that he's also reprogramming the teleporter to teleport Amazo away, but not himself. In some circles, doing two things at once counts as a superpower. Amazo has all the powers of all the superhumans in the Justice League. His only weakness is, he doesn't have mine. Yes, clearly Amazo does not have the ability to do two things at once. Which is why we never see him teleporting while remaining invisible, quipping while firing his laser eyes, expositing his plans while pressing a button, imitating the Martian Manhunter while stopping an arrow from shooting him in the back, or shouting and flying while firing his laser eyes. Nope, he doesn't have the power to do anything at the same time whatsoever. And come on, you just spent all of the last story stroking your own ego over how awesome it is that you have no superpowers. Now you're praising yourself over your superpower of multitasking? But yeah, Amazo is teleported to several points around the globe. I sure hope that Batman remembers to reprogram the teleporter so that this doesn't happen the next time someone tries to use it. And in case you're wondering why Batman didn't just use the JLA signal device to actually signal the JLA, he answers that question for you himself. Maybe I wanted to test myself against the powers of John, Hal, Clark, and the others. Prove that one man can take down all of the super beings. All of those people who live in the sky. All the flyers. All of the above. You know, I can see Batman wanting to be prepared for the rare occasion when maybe some Justice League member falls prey to mind control and they have to fight. But you don't do that in a story that implies the total impotence of the entire Justice League. I mean, come on! You have a team of dozens of people with powers and abilities far beyond those of mortal men, and what's the one thing that can bring them all down almost simultaneously? One single mortal man. A single mortal man who, lest we forget, was broken in half by yet another single mortal man who was simply hopped up on steroids. I love Batman too, but I don't have to express that love by trying to make every other hero in the DC universe completely helpless. This is like Cry for Justice, where Prometheus takes down the entire League in only a few panels. And this is even worse, since it was a villain doing that to the League. Sure, his motivations were shaky as hell, but at least he was a bad guy. Why is Batman out to prove that he's more powerful than his teammates? The more you think about it, the more it looks like it's because he's embarrassed by the size of his bat pole. Our third and thankfully final story shows Batman tracking a series of purchases recently made by a former marine biologist, Mike Carey, and decides to put a stop to the crime he's apparently planning before he can commit it. Not a bad idea exactly, but what's stopping you from just following his van and stopping the crime right before it's committed? I mean, yeah, it looks mighty suspicious, but for all you know, he could just be going on a hunting trip, or a variety of other reasons. And is this a regular thing for Batman? Does he always spend every waking minute of his life tracking every transaction that happens in Gotham to try to piece together possible crimes? I know Batman's supposed to be scary to the criminal community, but he shouldn't have to be a creepy stalker to the civilians of Gotham too. But yeah, Batman and Robin, who is Tim Drake for some reason, tell him that his plan to rob the aquarium he used to work for will end up badly if he goes along with it. How they deduced it was the aquarium he was planning to rob instead of just some random liquor store is anyone's guess, but Mike decides to take their advice. My daughter, she's still sick. She is. What do I do? Work it out. How do I get down from here? Work it out. So yeah, Batman just leaves this poor guy on his roof, and we don't even get an epilogue of Bruce Wayne giving him a job or a donation or anything to help his daughter. He just tells him to work it out. Our heroes, ladies and gentlemen. I love Batman, but my God, this comic was stupid! Batman himself can't shut up about how freaking awesome it is to have the superpower of being completely powerless, and not content with simply going on about how great he is all by himself, he can't do so without also demonstrating how useless the entire Justice League is. Frankly, I'm surprised he didn't just have Robin shining his boots the entire time in the last story, which, by the way, only gives the illusion that Batman's a decent guy who can stop crimes in more ways than pummeling people with his fists, but only demonstrates how much of an intrusive and paranoid dick he is. And since I've already referenced Batman through the looking glass twice already in this one review, I'm going to close on a third, and urge my viewers to read Batman Noel, where Batman faces his own mortality, recognizes the value of his peers, and actually helps somebody instead of just tells them to go work it out. See you later.
Batman owns the night. Now taste fear. Wait, what? Oh, God! Oh, my back just snapped like a pack of uncooked spaghetti! Oh, you just walk up and break my back without saying a word! Oh, boo! Boo on you, sir!
That's Bane.
Bane broke my back, but years of training allowed me to heal in record time. Now, let's see when the Joker... Oh, my God, no! Oh, like a string of firecrackers, my f***ing back! Oh, felt the soles of my feet touch the back of my head on that one!
That's Bane.
Leave a room. Wait, they said Bane had crippled me for life. But that monster isn't going to own me. I'm back. Oh my God, this is not happening! Ah! Where were you guys on that one? You just watched it! This is a waking nightmare!
That's Bane.
Give it up, Joker! You'll never... Oh, ow! Is that piss, dude? Did you just squirt piss in my mouth? Oh, we are done professionally!
It's not his piss, Bats!
That is only slightly better. Rule of 3, asshole, not 4!